I'm Carrie Sherburne, Senior Editor at What They Think, and I'm here with Dave Vanek, who's the Director of Sales and Business Development for Graphene One. Welcome.
Thank you, Carrie. Glad to be here.
So, first of all, we've written about you guys on What They Think a fair amount, but maybe you could, for some of our viewers, you could just give us a brief background of the company.
Sure. Graphene One is LLC is incorporated in California and Los Angeles, but we're part of a parent company, QS Group, which is based in outside of Shanghai, China, privately held company, and been primarily in the safety gloves business for almost 30 years. And they branched into solar panels and into graphene about 10 years ago.
So, what's the interest in graphene? Why graphene?
Yeah. Graphene's a really interesting material, and it's being looked at and being used in applications from cement to plastics to batteries, semiconductors. But we've focused really primarily on fabrics and textiles. And what we found is by putting graphene oxide, and we make our own graphene, we put it into graphene oxide, we exfoliate it, and what we found is it gives really interesting functional properties to the fiber. So we put it into polyester and nylon and viscose, so very common textile fibers. And it gives bacteriostatic, thermal regulation, and anti-odor properties. And sometimes we get mite and mosquito resistance as well, although primarily it's been the first three that most clothing producers have been interested in.
And also, doesn't it have something to do with strength?
Yes, in some applications we do see improved strength and cut resistance. We have a grade that we put the same technology into ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, and we use it internally in our gloves division. We have a division called Armor Guys brand based in California as well. And in the safety gloves, they've seen increased cut resistance and increased abrasion in the gloves.
And so graphene actually was discovered, I guess, in 2004 in Manchester, UK. So it's a relatively new development. And you mentioned some of the industry segments that it's being used in, but it was a little slow coming to textiles. I assume
Yep.
that you were one of the early ones to adopt this in textiles.
Yeah, we were one of the first to really concentrate on textiles. And you're right. There's a lot of research going on, and some applications are much more further along in commercialization than others. People are still working on, like I said, batteries and semiconductors. But in the textile industry, um, we found that incorporating it into a master batch and then being able to add that to a polymer was fairly straightforward. So it took us about a collaboration with some universities, both Manchester University and some in China as well, about 8 or 9 years to really get it to a point where it's consistent. And we've rolled it out to the market 4 or 5 years ago. So now we're seeing commercial applications coming into the market.
So I have seen some other offerings in the textile industry that use graphene at some level. What makes your solution different?
Yeah, good question. I mean, some of the people out there are using graphene in coatings. Putting a small amount of graphene or graphene oxide or another form of graphene into a coating or a finish that can be spray applied, to a finished fabric, and that works. And you do get some of the same properties I mentioned. Of course, the problem with any kind of coating is you worry about or you wonder how well it's going to last over time. Can it stay on the fabric? Is it going to be effective after 20, 30, 50 washes? Whereas our technology, the particles of graphene oxide are embedded and covalently bonded to the polymer. So they're in there for the life of the fabric. They can't move, they can't change form, they can't degrade. So they're functioning even when you're not wearing the garment. You throw it in the laundry bin, and it's still reducing odor and killing bacteria, even when you're not wearing it, for the life of the garment. So that's really important, and it's a lot of companies, a lot of brands we've talked to, they really want to get away from using, silver or other antibacterial materials that have been used for years that are coatings. and go to something that's more sustainable, that's going to be there for the life of the product. So that's the big differentiator.
And it would actually be the life of the yarn, the life of the fiber, right? Because if it gets recycled, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be there as long as the fiber still exists. As the clothing wears out over 10 or 15 years, it's going to get thinner and but it'll still be there in the yarn because it's embedded in the polymer itself.
And so, in terms of the feel of it, because if it's carbon, right? You sort of think, ooh, it's going to make the fabric kind of crunchy. So talk about the feel aspect of it, the hand feel.
Yeah, yeah, the hand feel is something that's very important to many people. And, we have, like I say, polyester, nylon, and viscose, which themselves have a little bit different feel. The fineness of the yarn or the fiber itself, the finer the fiber typically have a better feel. But we've been told by many of our customers that the comfort is great, and that's been one of the bigger features. And it's a little harder to measure in a textile. There's different techniques out there, but ultimately it's the person putting on the clothing and wearing it. And comfort has been very good. And we're only putting in graphene oxide at 1 or 2%. So it's really very similar to what the initial polymer, the polyester or the viscose feels like itself, and then the denier of the fiber. And we have filament and we have fine staple fiber as well. And of course, our fibers are typically blended with cotton, with wool, with other synthetics, put in some spandex for stretch. So as you know, most fabrics are a combination of many different fibers today. So we tell people to put in between 30 and 50% of the Kyorene fiber to get the properties that we discussed.
And you have been in the market for a while, as you mentioned. I think I ran into you guys first in 2018, which seems like a long time ago now, after the last couple of years. But talk a little bit about some of the customers that are using it, some of the brands that are using it. I mean, I understand you have big brands and you have startups and everything in between.
Yeah, the brand's using it now. It's really starting to take off, and it actually is further developed, I would say, in Asia than in the U.S. Somewhat because our company's there. It was easier to get things moving with local mills and things, and some because they had a head start, and some because it seems that it's just a more innovative. People over there will take a new technology, make a fabric, test it with some customers, and if it works, they move forward. And you mentioned big brands and small brands. Yeah, we have small startups that have funded their products on Kickstarter, and they're usually fairly quick to move. They test it, they get what they want, they figure out what data they need, and how they're going to advertise it and market it, and away they go. Larger brands tend to study it, figure out which collection, fall and winter, spring and summer, and in which year they can integrate it into their product line. So they tend to be a little slower. So it takes a few years to get things out in the market. But we've now seen many different applications in underwear, in socks, in sportswear, in jackets, both for heating and cooling. So a wide variety is, and we've had large brands like Contour, the manufacturer of Lee jeans, Lee and Wrangler. They introduced it first in a lining of a jacket, and then they looked at it in denim, and they have it in denim products again in Asia Pacific. And now they're working on 2 or 3 new products with ours, and we have a family of products. So they've looked at it, and other companies have looked at it for thin T-shirts from a performance wear, or looked at it in jackets as part of either the lining or the insulation material. It has the ability to absorb far infrared radiation. And your body's giving off far infrared all the time. Most of the heat coming off of your body is far infrared, so you can't see it without a thermal camera. And the Kyorene can absorb that far infrared and transmit it. And if the fabric is a thin single layer, like a t-shirt, then it's going to give off that and have a cooling effect. If you trap that, like in a jacket where you've got 2 or 3 layers, it'll absorb that heat and hold that heat, and so you'll be warmer. So different people have used it for different reasons, and sometimes they start developing it for one reason and then end up going a different direction. But yeah, we're starting to see commercial applications in all countries, in lots of different applications now.
And so I was wondering, in terms of like the yarns that I saw in 2018, I was at a trade show, were gray and carbon is black. So talk a little bit about the whole dyeing.
Yeah, carbon is black and graphene oxide is black. And so when you put that pigment even at 1 or 2% into the fiber, your fiber color ends up being a light gray. Um, you can dye it and it will dye, it will finish, it'll set. Any textile process you're doing is the same as that base polymer. So if you buy the polyester fiber with graphene, you treat it just like you would a normal polyester fabric. Um, White has always been a challenge because, of course, it is gray. So you can dye it and it will pick up the color fine. But if you have a normal polyester mixed with our graphene, the graphene's got gray in it, so it'll come out a little bit darker. So you do have to be careful in how you construct your fabric that you don't see color variation in your fabric. But people have been able to work through that without any issues. And we do have a whole line of new products coming out based on another two-dimensional molecule. It's called white graphene in the industry, and it is a 2D molecule, and it's white, completely white. So if people want to make, say, bedding that's white or light pastel colors, then we typically say, well, why don't you try the Kyorene white product?
And so that would have the same general properties, the thermal and all of that.
Yeah, it has the same antibacterial, thermal regulation, same properties. We measure them, and we're still gathering some of the test data. It's pretty new to the industry, but we have it in the same three polymers. So viscose, nylon, and polyester, staple, and filament. And we're just starting to roll that out. We've seen applications already in underwear and several folks making socks as we speak. So it's starting to become popular as well.
That's good. So anything else that we should look for from you guys in the future? I mean, are you expanding outside of apparel or bringing other new things to market that we should know about?
Yeah, well, we've in China and in Europe we have toothbrushes with Kyrene bristles. We have water filtration systems, small units that sit on your desk, if you will, for like home use. I've been trying to expand those in the U.S. With not so much luck so far, but we're really focused on the fiber. So even in the fiber form of toothbrushes and filters, it's still the fiber, so it's the same basic technology. So that and bringing out the new grades, the new Kyrene White, we have developed that with a shape fiber, so improved wicking. Um, we also have a recycled fiber. We have a lot of folks want to use recycled materials from a sustainability standpoint. So we have a recycled polyester that is certified, and we can produce that in all of the grades that we have so far, both in the white and in the normal graphene. So that's pretty exciting. We just rolling that out to the market. So yeah, new products are coming almost monthly. It's hard for me to keep up with them all.
And so if people want more information about this, they should visit.
Yeah, they could visit our website, Graphene One LLC, and my contact information is on there. You can get a hold of me. I'd be happy to do a Zoom meeting, send you information, test data. We have a lot of information we've gathered over the years, and we're happy to share it with mills, with yarn producers, and with brands.
Terrific. Well, it's a great story, and it has the opportunity to really make a difference in the apparel industry. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie, for the opportunity.